Here we are, Tyler, Abuelo, and the Nieto, number 49. We talk Miami sports, and we're presented the first time that we're presented by Balado Tires, two locations in Miami to serve you better. 63 years in the market, one of the first Hispanic businesses in South Florida. They're located at 27th Avenue Northwest and 16th Street, and Southwest 8th Street and 67th Avenue. Balado Tires. And this is number 49. Tyler, we talk Miami sports. We're going to be talking about the Dolphins. Second preseason game. They had two practices already with the Lions. Saturday afternoon, that game. They'll be going against one of the top offenses in the league. So that's going to be interesting. We'll be doing a preview of that. The Canes, how many first round picks do the Canes have? Is the quarterback a first round pick? And Tyler will get into that a little bit. And also, we'll be talking about Inter Miami, some moves that they have made, a couple of players that are leaving, one that might be coming in. And the Marlins, what's happened to the Marlins? Not very good looking, like Celia Cruz says, in the last few weeks for the Marlins. But number 49, Tyler, right?
That's right. Let me know who it was. We kind of mentioned him last week during the podcast, so a little bit of a spoiler for the people who did listen. But who wore number 49 for the Florida Marlins?
Number 49 for the Marlins was Mr. Charlie Huff, right?
Yes, that's right.
Charlie Huff, the knuckleballer, and Charlie Huff started the first game ever for the Marlins in 1993. A veteran, he pitched, I don't know, he was like 60 years old, and he was still pitching. No, I'm exaggerating, but he was old then in 1993. So he had a career, a long career in the majors, and he made the first start ever for the Florida Marlins. They were the Florida Marlins back then. And Miami sports legend. Today we're going to have a Marlin in Miami sports legend later on in our podcast. Also, Miami sports trivia, and people like Miami sports trivia.
So if you were keeping up with the Dolphins, or been watching kind of some of these training camp clips and footage that's been coming out, you'd see they had a rough day in that joint practice against the Lions yesterday. Especially defensive backs were just getting torched by Amon-Ra St. Brown, where one of the best receivers in the NFL, but still it was like seemed like the guy didn't drop a pass, or didn't have a single incomplete pass thrown to him all week. But obviously they're going to face the Lions in their second preseason game. What do you think this is going to look
Well,
like for the team?
Well, Thursday they did better. Thursday they did a lot better. The offense did a lot better. The defense maybe not as much, but the offense definitely did a lot better Thursday in the practice Thursday. So that is a positive. But I go back to what is this, Tyler? This is what? It starts with a P. This is practice. So we can make too much of it. Either way, not celebrate too much and not be, unhappy too much with practice. Depends who's playing. Depends on the effort. Depends on the plays that they're using. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there. The good news is that Chop Robinson is back. Chop Robinson got hurt Wednesday. He's back Thursday, so that's good news. He actually said it that it was nothing serious. So that's important. They have some injuries in the offensive line, Tyler, and they lost another guy. Fedi is his last name. He had he signed about a week ago, and then he got hurt. So they signed another offensive lineman, a guy that came from New England. He's got some experience in the league, and he can play tackle. But they have lost some guys. Mayer, the center, was doing very well. So that's something that worries you down the line. I think the offensive line definitely is better than they were last year at this point. With Savanea, guard, and Daniels. Definitely, and Paul is been doing very well in practice, the left tackle. So you're positive with that, but the depth is what worries you regarding the offensive line. I would not be surprised if they bring another offensive lineman when some more cuts are done through the league as we go on in the preseason, or maybe a trade. I mentioned last week the possibility of a trade, not only for defensive backs. There's a possibility definitely or signing somebody as a defensive back, because I believe that they still need help in that position, but also offensive lineman. Now, who's going to play Saturday? Tyreek Hill did not participate in the practice Thursday again, so probably he won't be playing Saturday. But I see some of the starters getting more time this time around, and also a guy like Jalen Waddle, a very important guy, practice against the Lions. So I think he'll be playing Saturday. We got to look at the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks were up and down, the second stringers. You know, Wilson, definitely, and also the third string quarterback, the kid from Texas. So you know, they're working. They're trying to get better. I think that we got more depth at that quarterback position. That's something that we'll be looking at also in that second preseason game. And how does the defense? How do they do, Tyler, against one of the top three or four offenses in the league? You know, Goff, a quarterback. Brown, you mentioned him. A tremendous group of receivers. So how are they going to perform? That's going to be interesting, especially that defensive backfield. How are they going to perform?
Yeah, I agree, and I also think that while it was a rough practice yesterday, kind of a little bit discouraging if you're a Dolphins fan. You also got to take into account the fact that this is simply they went through last practice without Hill and Waddle. They went into that red zone period where they couldn't punch the ball in without Hill and Waddle. So, and even that rough team period, they're without two of the best receivers in the NFL. So, not necessarily a fair way to assess that team. But moving on to the other important football team down here, the Miami Hurricanes, just looking kind of far ahead. I know we're in the grind of camp season. Nothing's too official. We don't really have that results of the season yet, but looking ahead to that 2026 NFL draft, a couple guys on this team that could be drafted in that first round. I'm looking O line. You might think quarterback. I completely disagree with you, but definitely a few people on this team where kind of getting back on that track of having these having the Hurricanes start to pump out this NFL talent like they used to back in the day.
Yes, you look at the Miami, and they have a shot at having four first round picks, in my opinion. Magoa, Francis Magoa, the tackle. This is a guy that a lot of people are mentioning him top five, top seven. Ruben Bain, the defensive end. He had a down season last year, but he was hurt at the beginning of the year. He got hurt versus the Gators. He never was the same guy that he was as a freshman. So he's got to step up. He's got to step up. But if he steps up, he could be a top 10, top 12 pick. And then it gets a little more, complicated down the line. Carson Beck, you look at his numbers, and just based on numbers, he's a guy should be there, should be right up there with the quarterbacks. And you have a lot of top quarterbacks that should be going in the next draft. So the competition is strong. But Beck, over almost 8,000 yards in college, Tyler, 60 touchdowns. So he has performed. He has had the numbers. You can critique him as far as maybe not winning titles, maybe not showing up in some of those big games, and he didn't have the kind of performance that people were expecting last season, and that's why he stayed one more year. But he certainly has the talent, the physical talent, to be able to do it. And a guy that people forget is the left tackle, Tyler. He's been improving continuously, and he was very good the last 5 or 6 games of the year. I'm referring to Marco Bell, the 6'9" guy, 340 pounds. He's very physically talented, and he basically took the job from Rivers at the end of the year, because Rivers was ready to go physically, and he was not able to return as the left tackle for the Canes, and Bell kept that position. And Rivers was a guy that was projected pretty high. Did not end up as highly as he was projected initially in the draft. But Bell is a guy to look at this season, and definitely a possibility for a first round pick.
Definitely, I agree with that. I mean, I think he has the potential size wise and things like that, but obviously a reason he went JUCO, couldn't be a top prospect coming out of high school. Still kind of raw, a lot of development there, but he also got one of the best offensive line coach in the country or in recent history with Mirabal. So if anybody could, mold something out of him, it's definitely Alex Mirabal. And he's a local legend himself, Mr. Mirabal. But you got your Rolly Martin's Miami Sports Legends segment for us here. A little different from Hispanic athlete, but kind of on that same track. So who do you got for us today?
Yes, before we get into the sports legend, we have a Miami Marlin. He used to be a Florida Marlin for you. We would like to, welcome or sponsor Balado Tires. Balado Tires, 63 years established here in South Florida. Two locations in Miami, Northwest 27th Avenue and 16th Street, and Southwest A Street, A Street. The people from the Southwestera, A Street and 67th Avenue, very competitive prices, a family business, all right, with the personal service that you guys deserve, also offering brake repair services. You need tires. Think of, I was going to say another name. Think of Balado Tires. I got confused with Miami Sports Legend, and I was going to go into the Miami Sports Legend already, Tyler. But talking Miami Sports Legends, who remembers Luis Castillo? Luis Castillo, the star second baseman for the Marlins from the Dominican, won two titles, 97 and 2003 with the Marlins. One of those, one of the one or two guys that were still here that were kept. So he's an over 300 hitter in 5 seasons for the Marlins. Played 10 years with the Marlins, and he had a 15-year career. A 290 hitter in his career, 370 stolen bases. One of the great base stealers for the Marlins in their history. 1,001 runs score for his career. A fielded percentage, very good, of .983, a three-time All-Star, three-time Gold Glove winner, Marlins all-time leader in hits with 1,273 and gains 1,128. The great, the talented one, the colorful one, Luis Castillo.
Gotcha. And moving on to a little bit
I,
of
I like your background, Tyler, by the way.
yeah,
Very nice
little,
background. Yes, you
little Ed
have
Reed.
improved in your background. I was beating you badly, not in sports trivia, but in background, I was beating you badly, especially when you were in Savannah. But now you have improved a lot, and Tyler will be going to New York pretty soon, and he's getting his master's from Columbia University in journalism. So congratulations before you even start. When you finish, that's gonna be a lot bigger. Congratulations. But
Thank you.
you'll be doing our podcasts and reports and everything from New York, from the Big Apple.
That's right.
So that's exciting. And I look for a good background in New York, Tyler. Okay, so see if we you can deliver that.
Okay.
And you were saying,
I was kind of going on to leaving you to come to bat as our soccer expert here. Inter Miami made a move, made a trade
I'm the expert in soccer.
between the two of us. Yes, it
So,
seems like
oh,
it.
okay. I'm the expert in soccer. We're in bad shape.
Yeah,
It's just that
between
it might be that I'm much better than you, but
the bar is pretty low. I'll say that. Not too much of a standard to live up to with me there. But Inter Miami, we talked about that trade with Calendar. Just want to know, do you think that was kind of a mistake, or some maybe they should have held on to him, kind of looking at how it'll affect the team in the future, or how it already has affected them?
well, let's put it this way: would you change, a good player coming off an injury that is a good player that you won with? You ended up having the best record in the MLS last season. He played, more than half of the season for you as a goalkeeper. Then he had some problems physically, and then you make Ustari the starter. Uh, would you trade that situation for a guy that is 39 years old? Uh, he's a good goalkeeper. He's done fairly well for the Inter Miami, but he's 39 years old, Ustari. So that is a questionable move, in my opinion. I think that you can keep Ustari by as a starter, but you definitely have to keep calendar, or if not, bring somebody of that level to be your number two. So not so much now ending the season, they don't have that much to go, but I really think it's important now also. But looking at the future, more importantly, how is the thing gonna go next year? They're gonna go with that guy, maybe 40 years old, as a goalkeeper. That is a little bit of a question. I think that that relationship with Messi, being Argentina and everything, all that happens to makes it's always impactful and important for Inter Miami when they make decisions. And in this case, hopefully, they made the right decision. Hopefully, keeping Ustari at the same time. Federico Redondo was also moved to Elche of the La Liga. Federico Redondo was really up and down, a young player, I think kind of slow for his position. He hustles, he plays hard. But some of the problems that the Inter Miami has had in some of the acquisitions that they have made, especially at midfield and defense, has been that some of those guys are pretty slow. And they have been hurt by speed in the past, and hopefully that can change. They're talking about getting Gonzalo Piovi from Cruz Azul, a defender, and they have run into some problems there because the move is for like about $7 million, and the MLS has so many rules that makes everything so complicated. We have said in this podcast before, they have to make some changes if they want to really grow and really compete here in the U.S. So many rules, and now everything slows down because you bring a guy from outside, international player. You have these situations that you have to worry about, and then that player plays 7 days, 10 days later. When the NFL, NBA, you lose a player, you bring a guy the same day, right? The next day, 2, 3 days later, he's playing. So those are some of the things that the MLS still has to work on, and some of the negatives that now the Inter Miami is facing with moving two players, and maybe Mascherano not having anybody back. So maybe as soon as the League Cup quarterfinal game next week. They have a game this Saturday versus Galaxy, which won the title last season, but is not playing very well this season. Messi is back at practice. Those are some of the good news. They should be able to take care of the Galaxy on Saturday on that MLS game coming up.
So moving on to our fantasy football segment, draft day is coming up closer for all of you guys. Might have happened already, but hopefully I can help you out, make you get a couple more sleeper picks to get your team where it needs to be. One guy that stands out to me, I was kind of keeping up with him throughout that draft process. Colston Loveland, a tight end from Michigan, rookie tight end, kind of going back to that. I know we had a couple of veterans in the most recent segments, but I mean this guy was Michigan's leading receiver last season. 56 catches, 582 yards, 5 touchdowns. And the year before, when they won the national championship, he was their leading receiver in that national championship game. Not the best blocker, but in terms of fantasy football, that's not really going to help you that much. So who cares? Just a big target, smooth route runner, somebody you can put in the slot, flex out to that H back. And if he's going against safeties, outside linebackers, I just see that being a mismatch. He plays for the Chicago Bears, and Caleb Williams is still kind of trying to find those targets he can lean on. And young quarterbacks love tight ends. It's the check down, it's the easy throw to make. If you have a coach in your ear, they're always telling you to throw the check down, and Loveland will be right there waiting for it. So if you got that, might not even have to waste a pick on him. Could be somebody you scoop up in free agency if you don't have a tight end, if your tight end's not playing too well, or he could be a late round pick. And moving on to our another special segment of ours, we got our Miami sports trivia. And I just want to I'll kick it off this time because you've been on a bit of a hot streak. I think you got two and a half questions right. So let's see
No,
if you can
it's
get.
three in
No,
a row.
I don't know
Yes.
about that. Yeah, that's
Oh,
up
okay.
for. We got to let the fans decide. We'll move
You're
forward.
very tough on me. You're very tough on me, but well, what are we gonna do? Go
Um,
ahead.
this week, my question for you will be should be an easy one. Who has the highest? You don't have to give me the number, but give me the person who has the highest single season batting average in Marlins history.
Season batting average in Marlins history. Uh,
He won a batting title
that's he won a batting title.
that year. He won the batting title.
Mm. Miguel Cabrera,
Hanley Ramirez, 342.
Hanley Ramirez,
Yes,
Hanley Ramirez. All right, remind me of that year.
it was 342 in 2009. Yes,
342.
yes,
Okay, I thought of Miguel. Actually, who had a very good average, close to that, 334 in one of his years over 300. In one of those 5 years over 300 with Castillo,
yeah.
he had a very 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 good season for the Marlins. Oh, this one you should be able to handle. It's not that difficult. Before we're going to talk a little bit about the Marlins. Also, before we end the podcast, Marcy was very good on Wednesday evening. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Marlins and something about the Heat that is also interesting. A player that they just signed about a couple of days ago. Um, who was the first Miami Heat player to be an all-star, to be an all-star player? It was in the 90s.
Early or late 90s.
It was after 95.
Tim Hardaway.
No, it was Alonso Mourning in 1996, the first Miami Heat player to be an all-star. He was also an all-star in 97, in 2000, 2001, and 2002. Of course, Mr. Dwayne Wade was the one that dominated all-star games, being selected for all-star games for the Heat, the number one Heat player, in my opinion. Uh, Tyler, the Marlins, very good July, but down in August. They have lost 7 of 10 in August. But incredibly, the Mets have been doing so bad lately, and some of the teams that were right up there were been doing bad. So they're still 6 games out of the wild card. So it's still possible, but the clock is ticking, and it's getting a little bit late for the Marlins. The pitching has been down quite a bit the last couple of weeks, and that has hurt them a lot. Especially that series against the Braves was pretty bad. Uh, Marcy. Jacob Marcy, the center fielder, doing very well. Tyler, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs in Wednesday evening win versus Cleveland, and this guy he has tremendous numbers early for the Marlins, hitting 436 for the season. So this is a guy that you keep, and that is the future of the Marlins, like right there. Also, regarding the Heat, well, they start this preseason October 4th in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, versus the Magic. That is official already. And they sign a guy with Puerto Rican roots, Ethan Thompson, the 6'4" shooting guard. He played at Oregon State. He was with the Magic G League team, had a good season. The Magic League team went to the title game in the G League. So they had a pretty good team, and he was basically one of the top couple of players for that team. So a 24-year-old, a good 3-point shooter, and he's the 17th player now on a 10 on one of those contracts, one of those funny names contracts that they have for players now in the